Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to the show where we're going to bring you the latest news in AI and share our thoughts and opinions. Now, before we dive into it, Will's got a good story, which I'm sure you're going to love. But please hit that like. We're a new show. We really appreciate your support. It costs nothing. It literally just, it literally says, please hit like. That's it. Subscribe, all those amazing things. Yeah, your support is very much appreciated. And I know I keep banging on about it, but it truly is. And also, let's engage with us in the comments. Let us know what you think. We've had a few people who are chatting to us in the comments, which is really great. Keep it coming, because we want this to be a two-way conversation where we're bringing you the news, we're sharing our opinions, but we also want to hear what you've got to say, because it's going to help shape our thinking as we tackle these big questions. Because obviously this is not just an AI news show, we're also thinking about it on a deep level on lots of different fronts. So, Will, let's jump straight into it. What's the story that's grabbing your attention today?
This has made quite a few headlines because it's been long awaited, and is interesting in quite a few ways, just beyond what is a product launch. So let me share my screen like I always do, and we'll start off with the website of the product that has launched. And I'll talk you through that before I'll talk about what I think is actually the most interesting part of this product launch, because it's a key demonstration of different things. So this is Cursor. Cursor is a product that I've mentioned before. It's also quite well known within the AI coding world. And Cursor is, as you can see, it's called an IDE, an integrated development environment if you're non-technical. And this allows you to see your files, edit your files, all within your code, of what you're making. And Cursor is one of the first and probably one of the most loved IDEs for AI-driven development, along with being able to look at your files and edit your files yourself. It also has, as you can see in the screenshot here, a bunch of ways to use AI to help edit those files and work with them to achieve things. And Cursor is really well loved, but what it's never had going for it is the fact that it's never had its own IP. Even the IDE, even the program that Cursor is what we call forked from another piece of software called Visual Studio Code, which is a Microsoft open source development editor. And they forked it, and granted, they've built a beautiful amount of UI on top of it, added loads of things, and made it really special, but it isn't their IP. It is their IP, but it's not, if you get what I mean. It's open source, so it's not baked from the ground up. Anyone can fork Visual Studio Code and do whatever they would like with it. And although doing a great job, they also, unfortunately, have no AI IP either. They literally use other model providers, which is fine, but it means they are a middleman, a third party, which means they have struggled in recent times a little bit with usage limits and people complaining about it, because essentially they're set in the middle between a frontier lab like Anthropic and then us as end users. And if Anthropic put their prices up, Cursor's prices go up too, and then developers are unhappy. And they went through a big period of this where their usage limits were being shrunk down and their prices were going up, and a lot of developers left Cursor because this was obviously upsetting. And you could go straight to model providers like OpenAI and Anthropic and use their tools directly, and their tools are also, by the way, very good. But they've just released Cursor 2, which is their second iteration, hence the name. And there's a lot of cool stuff in here. I won't bore you with the details of what goes into Cursor 2. But the one thing that they do now have is, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen and reshare one other screen, which is they've just released their own model, which has been long awaited, long discussed, long thought about, is will Cursor make some IP so that they're not literally just holding on to model providers for inference. And they did. They released Composer 1, which is a nice coding model. Apparently it's quite good, although it remains to be seen. This has only really just been released. So, benchmarks are still out. They did some of their own internal benchmarking, but you can never quite trust them. And it's meant to be quite good and competitive. And, there's a lot of discussion threads about it. And the biggest thing I think to talk about here is price. this is quite an interesting one, is by having your own IP, Cursor can now say they can slowly fade out other model providers if Composer gets good enough. But I thought they would be offering it at a lower rate and a lower sort of usage or more usage limits because it's their own to encourage people to use it. But actually, do you know what? It's the same price as GPT-5, which is a very, very, very strong coding model. So Composer has to be a really good model, for people to use it. Else, why would you use it? Because they're not offering it for ridiculously cheap. They're not offering more usage, not offering free usage out of it. They're offering quite high prices, which means you don't really get much out of it. So it remains to be seen. There's a lot of people here talking about what this means, how good it is. A lot of people are pointing out that this is probably a business move more than, to create a USP more than it is, actually trying to create something decent. And yeah, it's very interesting. I think the business story here is always been interesting for Cursor, who've created a great product off a product that isn't their own. And they use and pull together AI tools that are not their own. And they're sat in the middle, beknownst to all of them. And they've done very well, but they always struggle with that reception. So, fascinating in many ways.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think I think the reality is any middleman is going to get eaten alive by AI in all sorts of industries, because effectively that middle person is extracting value from the consumer to the product or the service that they want. And if there's a middleman sort of taking their little slice, there's inefficiencies, and I think that's where AI is just going to wipe out so many industries. From we're focused a lot more on technology topics, obviously, as that's what we're focused on with the show. But eventually, it might take 10 years, 20 years maybe. But I think this will translate into the legacy industries and businesses that we all know and have used over our lifetimes, from financial services to law. And accountancy, I think they're just classic cases where there's a middle person involved in a process that's not is extracting value of some sort, and if there's automation and certain things that can be done. And I think this is an interesting example of, like you were touching on, effectively they were literally just a middleman. They wouldn't even have the IP of the AI. They just created a nice UI. There you go, and put a price tag on it, and off you go to off to the horses. So it's interesting, and I think it's strategically it makes complete sense for them to have their own IP, like you're saying, because again, any person who's just sat in the middle is not actually creating value. Really, is just short term. And but equally, it does seem very odd that their pricing hasn't changed. You would have thought this was a huge opportunity to capture that goodwill at the beginning
as well.
Yeah, capture that goodwill at the beginning, and obviously they lost a lot of that goodwill with when they started increasing their prices, reducing their limits, and all the rest of it. It just begs the question, I guess ultimately, how is it going to be received by their target audience, the developers? We'll have to wait and see, I guess. Interesting, because again, why if there are model providers who are offering coding agents themselves, did you mention that?
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, this is it.
Why go through a middle person? It's
Cursor
literally
got a really good first movers advantage, because they released Cursor, and to their fairness, they grew to something like a $9 billion business in a year. I mean, so
they captured a lot of market share because no one else was doing it, basically.
Humongous, and you would have thought that would have bought you more time, but it didn't really. And although they're still going and still doing well enough, they are not as big or as popular as they once were. They're always in the news and well anticipated when they release something. But yeah, you've got things like Claude Code by Anthropic and GPT Codex, GPT-5 Codex, which is the model powered in Codex. For OpenAI, you have Gemini, CLI. All the model frontier providers have their own coding agents now as well, and some of them are much more competitive price. Not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah.
And you can just go straight there.
It's an interesting analogy, isn't it? When you think about, well, it's like, if you're getting a mortgage, do you go directly to the bank
Yeah.
Or do you go via an intermediary like a mortgage broker or whoever?
Mhm.
Slightly different, I guess, in the mortgage world because the mortgage broker technically is potentially independent, so they can look at all the lenders. But
Mhm.
when the middle person's not really sort of adding any value on top of that transaction or that step, it's questionable why you wouldn't just go directly to the provider, because
I think what's fascinating is the pricing model that Cursor has. You don't pay usage-based pricing. You pay a subscription. You pay $20, $60, $200 for different subscriptions. And because of that, the value proposition there for a user, or where they perceive the value to be, is that Cursor are giving you, this access to this software for this price, where that's not totally true. That's not totally transparent. And this is what would happen, is that people go back a year ago, were paying for Cursor, paying for the $20 subscription, which was more than enough back then. Suddenly they were seeing warnings for usage limits. We've got a pause there. You've used up all your credit. And people were suddenly like, what? But I pay my $20. Whereas other business models in the AI coding agent world, and there's a couple of them, most of them have gone for you pay for what you use sort of approach. You bring your own API keys, you plug into whatever models you would like, and then suddenly there isn't a conversation around pricing for that agent, that piece of software, because the AI pricing is dictated by you. You can choose the cheapest model if you like, you can choose the most expensive. It's not attached to us, which I think is a big mistake that Cursor made, really, is attaching a subscription to it instead of making it usage-based pricing directly to the providers that you're plugging into.
I completely agree with that, because it's almost like, what you mentioned, the alternative just gives people choice. There's a platform I can use, and I can choose which AI I plug into, and there is different consequences and different prices, and that's for me to choose. And not basically just being spoon-fed one option, and then suddenly there's all these issues. It's interesting because I go back to the analogy of mortgages and finance, and it's almost like going to a mortgage broker who's going to offer you one option, which I might as well go directly to the bank, or mortgage broker is going to offer you 50 options. That is literally the analogy.
But the analogy stands, it's like you go to a mortgage broker and they say, well, it's £100 for your mortgage, and that's all inclusive of the mortgage as well. And for a while that's affordable, but then what's happening is you're paying the mortgage broker, and then the mortgage broker is paying the lender, and inevitably the lender's rates, rules, everything changes, and the mortgage broker is the one that you're paying. And your problem is now with the mortgage broker. So
obviously mortgages don't work like that, guys.
They don't work like that, but that's sort of the analogy.
We do understand how this works, by the way.
But in this in this crazy world that we're talking about,
it's helpful, I think, thinking of these sort of different analogies. So
if you are a coding agent
who aren't as familiar,
if you're a coding agent, you're better to act what a mortgage broker is like in the real world, which is you provide the access and the ability to find the best deals and the best access. That's probably the best position to be in, as a coding agent. Is you provide really great service, really great software, and you help people find the best deals and access whatever they would like to access, instead of tying it to anything else. So.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, Will? Because we're working on a piece of software that is to do with privacy. I know you were thinking about NanoCoder. We'll mention NanoCoder in a minute, but
it's all good.
But that piece of software is going to help decide which models, or whether somebody's phone is going to be compatible. So it's almost like the AI is working out which model is potentially the best for the different users. So again, that might be a future that we start seeing. It's almost like, depending on hardware or your requirements or what you're trying to achieve, will dictate the model which is going to be most appropriate, and it will be suggested to you that this might be the best, but it's still down to the users to decide. So that's interesting.
Absolutely.
So
that's a really cool piece of software. I think this is where we'll get to, or continue to get to, especially as local privacy first solutions come out is, it's still a very technical world. So building software that goes, this is what you can run. You give me your parameters. How much do you want to spend? Do you want to spend anything? You might not want to. What are your how good is your computer? This kind of thing. And then it spits out the other side, sort of recommendations for you. But again, ultimately it's configurable. You can choose, if you want to put in an API key and pay someone, then that's up to you. I think this is also what is, a big thing at the moment, is that you are sort of tied again to these frontier labs, and you're sending a vast amount of data off, and you don't really have a choice. And I really think software should give you much more of a choice, to plug in whatever. You might go for those frontier labs, but at least you have decided to do that, not it's just gone there sort of thing.
Well, again, I mean, going back to Cursor, they are literally just, they're just trying to be the big tech play, aren't they, effectively? So, just easy, convenient, plug in, not 100%. Too much sort of thinking and all the rest of it. And but circling back to what I touched on briefly about NanoCoder as an alternative for people who are software engineers. A lot of people might not have heard of NanoCoder, but it's starting to build up a bit of a reputation on GitHub. Tell us about NanoCoder.
Yeah, that NanoCoder is, as we've spoken about before, but it's as you would expect it to say. It's a coding agent. It's built into your terminal, which is a way developers interact with their system on a low level. It's often a very used tool within the development world, and it is like Cursor, like Claude Code. You can run models and you can edit files on your computer. You can read files on your computer. You can do various things. It has tools available to it to help you with automated development. The biggest difference that we have with NanoCoder over something like Claude Code is a question we get all the time. Well, what's the difference then? We are building it to be local first, privacy first, and flexibility, choice first. You can plug in a model that's running on your computer, or you can choose to use your controlled APIs like OpenRouter, or you could actually, if you want to, with exploring, allowing you to connect your GitHub account, so you can do GitHub Copilot. So you can choose, but what we're really driving for is to build local, private first AI as the first option of choice for you. Make it so that you want to use these tools in a private manner. We're also doing it in a very, very community-led way. We, there's a couple of other coding agents which are open source, quote unquote, but the development is tied to a core team. It's open source on the peripheral, if you like, as a third-party developer. However, we want to pull on the expertise. We want people involved in the community. We want to make sure that AI is going to benefit everybody, as well as being able to reward people that contribute as well. So another big USP is that we are literally building this for the community, and it's by the community. I'm one contributor. We call it the Nano Collective, because I am one contributor, for example, but there's a huge number of other people that are involved that are doing a fantastic amount of work to make this into a great tool.
And one of the biggest benefits, of course, is it's open source, which means it's free.
Totally. Yeah, you can see how it all works.
Literally, how good. If you're a software developer and you're spending, I don't know how much they pay on, Cursor. Literally.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to. You literally don't have to.
If you want it to be, NanoCoder is completely free. You can pull it and you can run it, and you can plug in a model that's running on your computer. And if you do that, if you have a good enough computer to do it, although we're working on ways to make it better at running on lower hardware, but if you have a good computer, you can run a model locally, and it can code for you on your computer without any internet connection. And it's that's amazing for totally for free, and that's fine. That's an incredible USP. And literally this morning I was continuing the research and development behind making this run on lower and lower hardware. It's going to take a while, but I think this is where the world is going, or where it should go. And I think it's a frontier that we should push. So NanoCoder, and also the collective as a whole. NanoCoder is just one piece of software within the collective that we are developing and working on that have this privacy first angle. And is great to be at the frontier, and I think we should, because I think it's ahead of people's thoughts a little bit.
Definitely, and I think it cannot be underestimated how important privacy is.
Massively.
And more and more people need to think of it in those terms. Just like your messages, you want your messages to be private and your money to be private and sovereign, and you want your thoughts and what you do to be private and sovereign.
Absolutely.
So I think that's so important, and something that we believe in passionately, and that's what we're doing. And we've got lots of other things that we're cooking away in the background, which
100%.
are really going to help a lot of people. So in terms of, you know, ensuring their privacy is upheld and they can control their data. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's something we're passionate about. So yeah, Will, that's brilliant. Let's wrap it up. I think
Let's wrap it up. I was about to say, I hope
shared
you don't
enough.
mind, but I have got to run in a second. But I
That's all
think we've
good.
covered
That's all
everything.
good. No, absolutely. It's been yeah, a good chat. Love to see some comments, see what you guys think. Let us know if you check out NanoCoder, and let us know what you
Do
think.
it.
That'd be brilliant. But for now, listen, we're going to love you and leave you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys.
Cheers, guys.